Australia's record-breaking heatwave has sent temperatures soaring, melting road tar and setting off hundreds of wildfires.
Hundreds of people have been forced from their homes in the southeast as fires rage in 5 of Australia's 6 states.
Temperatures in some areas of devastation have now passed 50 degrees, causing the Bureau of Meteorology to add a new colour, deep purple, to the charts in order to show the intense heat generated from parts of the inferno.
Australia's average maximum temperature has exceeded 39 degrees Celsius for a record-breaking 7 consecutive days.
Deadly flooding has submerged Jakarta, paralyzing the Indonesian capital. At least 7 people have been killed in the rising waters triggered by heavy monsoon rains. More than 20,000 people were forced from their homes in the capital. Few areas of the city of 14 million people were spared, with water levels up to 6.5 feet.
Sinkholes aren't uncommon in China, but it's rare they cause this much damage in one go. It's still only a month into 2013, and already Australia has been hit by a record heat wave, devastating wildfires, and an unprecedented deluge of sea foam. And as if that weren't enough, then came the floods, which have ravaged towns and businesses along the country's east coast over the last week.
At least 4 people have been killed and thousands have fled homes and businesses on Australia's east coast amid some of the worst flooding seen in the country in decades.
Begin with the shock and awe of a meteor raining down on southern Russia. Nearly 1,000 people reportedly injured, millions mesmerized by the incredible images now streaming in. Watch that fireball. It grows bigger and bigger as it races across the daytime sky, and then it erupts into a blinding flash of light. But it would take several seconds for the sound to catch up.
Our third story out front, a Florida man swallowed by a sinkhole. This is a bizarre story. It happened inside this home. Jeff Bush was sleeping in bed when the ground opened up underneath him, and then he just fell into the earth. He screams for help were heard throughout the house. Police tonight say there is no sign of life.
At least 9 people have been found dead following a powerful blizzard that swept through the northern Japanese island of Hokkaido over the weekend. Japanese media said many local residents described Saturday's blizzard as the worst they could remember, with 0 visibility and hurricane-force winds, adding to the already freezing temperatures.
Bangladesh is reeling after a powerful tornado tore through villages in the east of the country. The latest reports are that 20 people are dead, 200 are injured, and hundreds more are without homes.
As many people are waking up to scenes like these, it's no surprise to hear this is likely to be the coldest March in 50 years.
The snowy weather in the United Kingdom is causing serious problems for farmers in Wales and Scotland. Livestock farmers fear thousands of animals have been killed in heavy snowfall over the weekend.
And some farmers are describing this as a catastrophe for their livestock.
Record amounts of snow are still falling, and it just keeps coming in parts of the country as roads are so slick. Crashes and injuries have doubled from a year ago.
Across the Midwest, the drive is rough, and for these cars, the drive out is impossible. Cars, even snowplows, littering the sides of the interstates. It's not what spring should look like.
Fierce storm this evening, more than half of the country in its path before it's over. And this video just in tonight from Orlando, Florida. Look and listen to this.
The Ukrainian capital has been struggling to clear its streets after record-breaking snowfall that began at the weekend. The authorities declared Monday a day off after many motorists were left stranded.
One house has been left severely damaged after a massive landslide struck Whidbey Island in Washington state on Wednesday morning.
The Indian Ocean island of Mauritius has been hit by severe floods. At least 10 people have been confirmed dead after over 150 millimeters of torrential rain lashed the low-lying capital of Port Louis in under 2 hours.
News today in Argentina, at least 50 people are dead and thousands more have been forced to flee their homes because of heavy storms and flash flooding. Buenos Aires and La Plata have been hit with the heaviest rains on record,
where up to 400 millimeters of rain fell in a few hours. Some officials have described the torrential downpour as the worst in living memory.
A 7.8 magnitude earthquake has struck southeastern Iran tonight. Up to 40 people are reported to have been killed.
The country's strongest in more than 50 years.
Take a look at this amateur video of a tornado in northern Italy. At least 11 people were hurt in towns and villages near Bologna on Friday. Tornadoes are quite rare in that part of the world.
From this devastated city of Moore, Oklahoma, south of Oklahoma City, where we've had confirmation today, these were some of the strongest winds on Earth.
With winds of up to 200 miles per hour, the twister left behind a wake of wreckage, ripping up at least 2 schools and destroying homes.
With at least 24 dead.
The May-long weekend is usually the unofficial start to summer, but not in Gander, Newfoundland. A freak snowstorm there obliterated every record they have.
In the U.S., more tornadoes have struck Oklahoma City, including the same suburb that was devastated just 10 days ago.
There is new proof this wild weather is producing things we have never seen before. Today, scientists announced that tornado in Oklahoma is the widest tornado ever recorded on Earth.
Flooding caused by heavy rain continues to make problems in Central Europe. At least 8 people are reportedly dead and 9 missing due to floods in Germany, Austria, Switzerland and the Czech Republic.
Water levels haven't been this high since the 16th century.
Meantime, early monsoon rains have created a crisis in northern India. Officials say more than 1,000 people have been killed in flooding and landslides that have destroyed roads, bridges, and communications. Tens of thousands are stranded or missing.
It's been described as the Himalayan tsunami.
America's most northern state is in the midst of a record heat wave, with some temperatures approaching 100 degrees.
Now we go to the north, to Canada. They're dealing with the worst flooding in decades there. So severe, they've evacuated downtown Calgary in Western Canada.
And the city's NHL arena was flooded to the 10th row.
The other big story, of course, the freak flood event that gripped Toronto Monday evening. 1 to 2 months worth of rain falling at about 2 to 3 hours.
Now to other news, parts of China are experiencing their worst flooding in 50 years as torrential rain lashes large parts of the country, leaving many dead and others missing.
In Chihuahua, in northern Mexico, salvation literally comes from the skies. Over the last 3 days, the heavens have opened, equivalent to the rainfall of an entire year.
Dramatic footage as a landslide sweeps away 28 houses and 6 hectares of farmland in China's Sichuan province.
China's National Weather Authority is continuing to issue the second highest orange heat alert across the country. It's the worst heat wave to hit China in 140 years, leaving dozens of people dead.
A few days ago, the earth opened up and left this giant sinkhole right in the middle of Dalton Haas's pasture.
Flash floods have left more than 160 people dead and stranded, and even more without food or shelter in Pakistan and Afghanistan, in one of South Asia's most destructive natural disasters of the year.
Parts of Japan are underwater as torrential rains wreak havoc. Floods and landslides have been triggered by some of the worst downpours on record.
A volcano in southern Japan has erupted, creating a spectacular plume of ash 3.1 miles high. It's the highest volcanic plume ever recorded for the volcano.
Now, there's no relief in sight for the tens of thousands of people living in Russia's Far East, battered by the worst flooding in more than a century.
And as we start, you're looking at live pictures of the Rim Fire near Yosemite National Park. It is now considered the biggest wildfire ever to burn in the Sierra here in California.
A mudslide triggered by snow causes chaos in what is normally one of the driest places on Earth. The light snowfall in Chile's Atacama Desert was the first in 30 years.
But we're going to turn now to what's being called biblical flooding across Colorado.
It's happening in Boulder, a 1 in 1,000 year flood for many communities.
The recipe for this natural disaster? More rain over a 48-hour period than Colorado sees in a year.
That's being felt over more than 100 miles. Big trouble tonight in Mexico, hit on both of its coasts by two big storms. Hurricane Ingrid caused heavy damage along the Gulf Coast, and Tropical Storm Manuel has cut off the city of Acapulco on the Pacific.
More than 100 people have already died because of the torrential rain, landslides and tropical storms that hit 2/3 of the country.
A massive earthquake killing hundreds, leaving thousands more injured and homeless in Pakistan.
It registered a magnitude of 7.7, hitting yesterday near the border with Iran. And take a look at the true power of this quake. Pakistani officials say it formed a new island off the country's southern coast. The landmass is visible from shore. It is about 100 feet long and 60 feet high. Incredible.
It is amazing. I saw this video and I just couldn't believe it. Yeah, a new island.
And now a rare October snowstorm pummels the central Rocky Mountains and the U.S. Midwest.
Has produced dangerous tornadoes, heavy snow, and thunderstorms. The storm dumped at least 33 inches of snow in one part of South Dakota.
Giant burial pits have been dug in the Black Hills of South Dakota for cattle lost in a surprise snowstorm. As many as 100,000 head are feared dead, and financial losses may be as high as $125 million.
Came on the air last night. A powerful cyclone was making landfall on the east coast of India.
Violent seas and winds gusting up to 150 miles per hour.
Cyclone Pylene has left a trail of destruction.
Phelan damaged more than 10,000 houses, killing at least 23 people.
Many lives have no doubt been saved by one of India's biggest ever mass evacuation.
Rescue teams in the Philippines search for survivors of Tuesday's 7.2 magnitude earthquake as the death toll continues to rise.
Dozens of churches and hundreds of homes have been damaged or destroyed on Bohol Island, the epicenter of Tuesday's earthquake, which killed nearly 160 people.
Emergency teams have launched a rescue effort on an island south of Tokyo. Typhoon Wipa killed at least 17 people as it churned up the Pacific coast. About 40 others are still missing. More than 800 millimeters of rain hit the islands in 24 hours. That's more than double the monthly average, and the worst downpour since people started keeping records 75 years ago.
Hurricane-force winds whipped across southern England, France, and the Netherlands on Monday. Part of a deadly storm, one of the worst to hit the region in years.
Bringing torrential rain. In all, more than a dozen people have been killed.
This morning, a deadly storm. Now being called the strongest tropical cyclone to hit land in recorded history.
Winds of 195 miles per hour and gusts of 235 miles an hour. That's higher than the winds from Hurricane Sandy and Katrina combined.
Those wild 195-mile-per-hour winds, the chaos causing waves and surge to climb over 20 feet.
Ferocious winds and tree-high tidal surges of Typhoon Haiyan destroyed roads, bridges, and homes across a wide swath of the central Philippines.
Good evening. As we watched it play out almost in slow motion from west to east across the Midwest on a Sunday afternoon in November, it was hard to believe, really, a wild outbreak of tornadoes. What the weather forecasting business calls a second season outbreak in a place where they assumed the danger had passed for this year.
As dramatic as it was dangerous, the storm swept in suddenly, giving some little chance to escape. bringing almost a year's rain in just 90 minutes. Cyclone Cleopatra unleashed its force on this usually sun-soaked holiday island,
causing water as high as 10 feet to race through towns, taking cars and people with it.
The worst storm to hit the island, perhaps for decades.
Japan added another island to its territory on Wednesday after an undersea volcano eruption in the southern Ogasawara island chain led to the birth of a small new island. Footage from Japan's Coast Guard shows a 650-foot diameter island emerging under a plume of ash nearby another small uninhabited island, which is also part of the chain.
The last morbillivirus event occurred more than 25 years ago, ran for a year or so up and down the East Coast, and killed 750 dolphins. This event has already claimed more than 800 animals, and it's only been 6 months.
Europe is shuddering under the threat of its worst storm in years. Hurricane-force winds lash mainland Europe. Travel and transport are disrupted, with thousands forced to flee their homes. So far, Britain seems to be bearing the brunt, with 15,000 homes evacuated.
Helicopter footage shows waves battering the Lincolnshire coast during the most serious tidal surge to hit Britain in over 60 years.
Maybe it's cold, all right, especially in Antarctica. Minus 135 Fahrenheit. That's a new record on planet Earth.
The news comes as winter storms sweep across the U.S., setting regional record low temperatures of their own.
Life is beginning to return to normal in Jerusalem after the heaviest snowfall in 50 years struck the Israeli capital.
Lebanon has been struck by heavy snow, leaving thousands of Syrian refugees out in the cold in tents as the first winter storm of the season batters the Middle East.
And yes, we did see accumulating snow even in some of the suburbs of Cairo.
Hundreds of thousands of homes across the U.S. East Coast, the Midwest, and parts of Ontario, Canada have gone without power as ice and windstorms swept through much of the region.
A massive ice storm in the United States and Canada has killed nearly 30 people and left 500,000 homes and businesses in the dark.
The storm left a study in contrast. So beautiful, yet so destructive.
Toronto's Mayor Rob Ford is calling it one of the worst storms in the city's history.